Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 11th meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Before we start our meeting tonight, since this is September 11th, I would like for everyone to rise and just take a moment of silence to honor those many people that lost their lives 23 years ago. Thank you. Now we'll start with our agenda with the approval of the minutes from our July 10th meetings, as we didn't have no August meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next thing on our agenda tonight is visitors and public comments, and I see the Wadsworth Fraternal Eagles is here. I'll let you introduce them. And
Thank you, sir. Is it all right if I stand up instead of standing at the microphone? Great.
yeah.
And I'll invite these folks to stand as well. These are our friends from the Wadsworth Eagles, and I call them friends because they really truly have been friends to the police department. I know they've been very supportive of the fire department as well. We've been routine invitees at the People Helping People event. They've supported our FOP very generously for our Cops and Kids program. But almost approximately a year ago now at this point.
Yes.
Close to a year ago, Rich reached out to me and said that they would like to help support our canine program here at Wadsworth. He forecasted a little bit that they might be able to help in a big way, and so we started to have that discussion. And at the end of Q1 of this year, we met, and their request, we had put together pricing for what it would look like to purchase a new canine, pay for that training, other equipment that we might need for the cruiser, the hot and pop, so the temperature gets too hot in the car, the door opens, other canine alerting systems, that cage. And again, at his request, and I tried to be very deferential when I presented it to him. I said, I don't have any expectation that you would provide all of these things, but I'm just providing a list of options as requested. And he sort of smiled at me and said, well, I think we can help in a big way. And a few days later, called back and said that they would like to help in a $27,000 way.
awesome.
So that basically took all of the items on that list. And we are incredibly humbled. The police department is obviously very generous. It was driven by them. And I think that speaks to them, their membership. It's just great to have an organization like this in our community that's willing to come alongside us and support us in that way. So we had gone down to their shop and they had presented this check and we spoke to their members, and again, we're very grateful, but I wanted to return the favor and tell them thank you publicly in front of the committee members, safety directors, and other officials. So that was tonight's presentation. So again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I know our guys are very excited about it. We're blown away by it. I understand maybe some other agencies have also started inquiring since the press release. But we appreciate you guys reaching out to us, and again, just very generous. And so I wanted to share that with the committee. And obviously, if you have questions or comments, or if you want to introduce yourselves individually.
Okay, I'm Rich Hedges. I'm a trustee, and we're very honored to be able to help the police with this dog. We have like 600 and some members in our area, about 400 in our auxiliary, so that's 1,000 people out at the Eagles. And we just really enjoy helping people out. And it's all the members that are responsible for it, not just a group of 3 or 4 people. It's all the members who do this. So we're glad to be a part of this. Okay.
David Ohl, Vice President, and it's an honor to help, actually. So there you have it. Thank you.
Sharon Grabowski. I am the Director of Gaming. I help put together the reports and stuff for the gaming, and it is a club membership that donates to this, so it is really a club effort that allows for the money to be donated.
I was also told that you're the numbers person, so without her here, so
She gave the
Very
approval.
critical component of the operation.
Very crucial.
I'm Mike Grabowski, and I'm the president, and it's just nice to help the local community with, you know, what you may happen to need, and we're just grateful that you're here for us.
I want to personally thank your group. I mean, that's huge, what you have done. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And does that come with naming rights? Is the dog going to be
We
called
did
the
discuss,
Eagle?
talked about that.
It's in the hopper. So
Okay.
it's,
Eagle would be a cool name.
no, it's appropriate, yes.
Yeah,
Very appropriate.
so,
Talked about, yes.
Yes.
all right.
Okay. And don't forget Bob and Dan, October 10th on a Thursday.
Yes, we were just
Thursday, yep,
discussing that,
I said, did you get your invite? And yes,
If
we
anybody wants to
did.
come for a good comedy show, Bob usually goes
No,
last. so he
I'm
gets
gonna be
chat with
nice
the police
this time.
department. So
I'll be nice this
And
time.
we have a little over 30 organizations we're going to be donating to.
and that's worth highlighting too. I mean,
Oh,
the
that's
first
great.
year that I went,
gosh.
I tell people all the time I felt like I was in the wrong room because of the groups that they're helping. You know, we're talking about food pantries, Shriners Hospital, and some incredibly generous donations to
Alzheimer's,
Yep.
Autism, Children's Hospital,
The garage,
Garage, Marion's Closet. So we do a lot of local. All our donations are in Ohio. Majority of them are in Medina County, and the majority of that is Wadsworth.
Awesome.
Very appreciative.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
very
Good
much.
job, guys. Thank you very much.
Mr. Copley, members of the committee, would you entertain a picture?
Yes.
At this moment, we
Sure.
should take a brief, yeah, we're going to take a photo.
No, that's everything. Good job. Thank you again. See you October. October.
I think that'd be an awesome name, wouldn't it? Eagle. Or an eagle.
Have at it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to our chief's report, and we'll start off with Chief Chafin.
Thank you, sir. Taking a look at our August numbers here, starting off with dispatch. So overall, just total phone calls received in the dispatch center, 4,164. Breaking that down into calls and service for police and fire, that's just a little over 1,700. That is down year-to-date compared to last year's August at 1,800, but it is up from the 1,600 calls we took in July. Year-to-date numbers are down about 2%, and this month's split was 82% police and 18% fire and EMS. Busiest day of the week for calls for service was Thursday, averaging 69. Busiest district was District 2, and busiest times a day, slightly different than our normal, looking like about 9 and 10 o'clock for the busiest times a day there in terms of calls. Any questions on the first page? Taking a look at the patrol division, we'll start with traffic stop data. Again, down compared to last August, but I will point out in comparing to June and where we've been across the summer, that number is consistent with where we were in June. I don't remember why we would have had such an increase last August, but I would say that number in August is higher than our average. So 254 again for traffic stops, down year-to-date 1,900 compared to 2,200. Parking citations, we'll point out that we've consistently finally started to see a drop in those numbers. At the beginning of the year, they were very, very high, which coincided with the same time that we increased the fines. And so I think that number's started to normalize a little bit, and we've actually seen maybe a reduction, which is what we intended out of that. Year to date, that number is still way up, 731 compared to 595. Misdemeanor citations, down year to date. We'll remind the committee as it's relevant to some of our other discussions, marijuana law changes are misdemeanor citations in that category as well, so you're going to have some change in fluctuation there. Taking a look at our accidents, 27 total property damage and injury accidents. That compared to 35 last year, and year-to-date, we're at a total of 229 compared to 240 at the same time last year. Our private property accidents are also down slightly year-to-date, 131 compared to 139. I'll highlight in the next category, our alcohol and drug-related accidents are up 19 at this point compared to 12 last year. Multi-accident intersections, Akron and 76, we had 2 accidents there. And unusually, we had more of an even spread. Usually, High Street dominates the most here, but Akron and Broad both had 5, and High Street had 6. Some investigative report highlights. Our theft cases, very consistent, both month to month and year to date at this point. Domestic violence, I think we mentioned in the July meeting that number was trending up. It's almost about 40% higher year to date than we were at this time last year. Our assaults are fairly consistent, and our sex offenses are also up pretty significantly, 31 compared to 21 at this point last year. Our overdoses are down 8 year to date compared to 14 last year. Our telecommunications harassment is down. Disorderly conduct's pretty consistent, and I will note our vandalism and damaging is also down about 50% compared to last year. Warrant services fairly consistent. And overall, a busy month at 128, which timed out well with August last year at 127. Year-to-date, 795 reports compared to 853. Any questions on the reporting side of that?
The only question I would have, when you say High Street, does that include the left turn lane that we've installed at One Park Center? Since that's, or would you call that a Park Center intersection?
So if the vehicles were coming off of Park Center, I would call it Park Center. If they were coming off of High Street. Yeah, so, and that would be in the intersection. And so the way it gets listed on that accident report would be both streets, and it would be in the intersection there. Okay. So if they were coming off of Park Street, I would generally maybe defer to Park Street. But High Street would be from the square all the way till the city limits.
Yeah, all the way to the city limits. Okay, I was just wondering how many accidents we've had with the left turn signal.
We could dig into that and see if we've had any there since. I'd be happy to.
There's been a couple, but I believe minor.
Minor?
In extent.
Okay.
Not, maybe you can count.
I mean, it took so long to get that light in there, it's going to take some time for people to get used to it. But, you know, I was just wondering if it, you know, created any issues.
Yeah, don't know if it's reflected in that High Street number. I would think probably not, but we can look into that.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Matt, do you know when that officially?
I can get that to you.
Okay, yeah, we can find that out and we'll get that data. So moving on to the next page, District 3 actually had the most cases generated between the districts. So District 2, the most overall calls, but District 3 generating the most criminal reports. Our arrest and bookings, spot on compared to last year. A slight increase year to date. You can see the breakdown there between the physical arrest, the summons, and the warrants. Some community outreach. We did have to cancel National Night Out due to weather. We had coffee with a cop, balloons over Wadsworth, scout tours, officer swearing in. We did a meet and greet at the library and then assisted with traffic control for Feeding Medina County. Our non-investigative reports, calls for service breakdown. Highest there is going to be security checks, followed by assist householder motorists and suspicious person and vehicles. So some of our training for the month of August, Gracie Survival Tactics. This is a renewal of certification for our DT officer. The Equus Therapy, which is one that's interesting here, it's Hope Meadows, which is a horse farm here in Medina County. They got a grant that's directed towards first responders and police officers, and they actually reached out to us and said, hey, would you like to have the officers come out completely free of charge, spend 3 hours here. They get to go through some therapy sessions with the horses. It's a really cool program, and so a handful of officers got to attend that. Again, no cost to the agency whatsoever and pretty minimal impact in terms of scheduling. Got really good feedback on how that went. And then SWAT, they had a week-long scenario-based training at a training center over in Indiana, which is also it's a really neat facility. It belongs to the federal government, but it's essentially a city that they've built out there. So they have houses, hospitals, schools, and it's just wide open. And so they get to spend, 3-4 days out there, and they can train to their heart's
Realistic
content.
training.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's got actual roads, some really, really neat things there. So that was that. Our patrol officer of the month for August, Officer Zach West. Zach is one of our newer officers, but he is one that is very proactive, great attitude. You can read here, he's got a lot of great traffic stops, but not just the stops. The stops are leading to guns. The stops are leading to guns. The stops are leading to drugs. And I had an excellent domestic violence investigation. So he was nominated by his supervisor as our Officer of the Month for July, and really proud of his efforts and the way that he's come along in a very short period of time. Any questions on that front? And for whatever reason, I think the main page of the overdose recap did not print, at least in my packet.
It's not in my packet either. Yeah, it is. Next page back.
I think we had 3 for the month and 8 total,
8 total, yeah.
if I'm correct. And again, that number is down compared to where we were at this point last year. Yeah, 3 for the month of August, 8 total, and then that was compared to 14 last year in 2023.
Does that complete your report?
It does, yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to our fire chief, Chief Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Coppin. Start off with the fire numbers for August. So we had a total of 30 calls. 23 were within the city, 7 in the township. We did receive mutual aid on 1 call. We had 20 officer checkouts, odor investigations, that's all tied in together. We had 47 inspection activities, 9 car seat public education. Average response time was 5:58. Our average firefighter on duty working at the station was 5.3. The recalls for the firefighters was just over 2, and that gave us an average total firefighter turnout just under 8. So when you look at comparison for our total runs from 2023 to 2024, we're down slightly, about 8%. Positive news, firefighters on duty were up about 16%, and total firefighter turnout was a 7% increase from last year. Moving down, our top type of property calls, where most of our calls are occurring. Again, top 3 is the majority of those, some type of residential family, multi-family dwelling, or 24-hour care facility. Our average of when we saw our peak for fire call volume was around 4 o'clock. And then the counts for each station, Station 1 had 212 calls, and then Station 2 was 103. Any questions on the first page? All right, moving on to the second page, just to break down on the left side is our incident types of how we categorize each of the calls. And as always, the EMS portion accounts for the majority of those calls. Moving on the other side, the right side, is our EMS numbers. So within the city, we had a total of 244 calls. In the township, we had 20, and then we had 5 out of our jurisdiction. So that was 269 calls for the month of August. Breakdown, again, City 1 is the majority of the district that responds to those calls, 125. With our average response time for August for EMS, it was at 3:55. We provided mutual aid on 5 occasions. We received mutual aid on 3. We had 57 second ambulance calls, 16 third ambulance calls, and 4 fourth ambulance calls. So our numbers for mutual aid given and received are still about half of where they were at this time last year, which is a good sign. Any questions on that page? Okay. Moving on to the next page, hospital transports. This month, it was the majority of our calls were transported to Wadsworth, with Barberton as a close second on that. Continuing down, just looking at our EMS numbers, where we were last year. This year, we're slightly just under 1%. We had 1,968 calls. The next box is actually just a new one. I've already been reporting on it. This time I finally put it in. Total calls for service. So this is where we stand for fire calls, officer checkouts, EMS, all of those. We're just under 1% of where we were last year. So actually it's 7 calls. So we're at 2,244. And then our ALS, BLS breakdown, we had 119 ALS calls and 73 basic life support calls. For our overdose data, we provided Narcan twice for the month and classified one of the patients. We had 1 patient as an overdose. And then moving over to the right, mileage, now that we have all 4 squads operating, those numbers are more consistent now for the month, and then our squad usage will be the same as well. So we're starting it now. We have Medic 1 is back, it's all done. Medic 4 is done. So now we're using all 4 ambulances. And then for our daily call volume, EMS, our busiest day was Friday at 47 calls. On the last page, just some of the training that we did for the month. Fire, we did some dry hydrants, testing those, flushing those every year. Apparatus controls, we did a couple extrication trainings, and then reviewing of the hand tools. EMS, we did a lot of respiratory and CHF, CPAP review. We did have one of our new full-timers. He went down to Columbus and did the aerial operations class. They always do a good job with that class. We did do some tours. We also participated along with the police department at the Balloons Over Wadsworth. It was a good event. It's fun seeing everybody out there. And then we had some new hires that have some pictures. So the first on the top one is our full-timer Lane Smith, who will be going on B shift. And then the bottom 2 pictures are our new part-timers, both Owens. So Owen Cherkoff and Ripplinger. Like to say those were past explorers. So at one point they were explorers and now they're on our department as a part-time. So, and that completes my report.
Good. Any questions, gentlemen? I have none.
No?
Mr. Copley, if I may.
Yeah.
Chief, I'd ask you perhaps, and maybe it's just simple arithmetic, on the last page of your report of August, in the EMS yearly comparison, if I'm reading the chart correctly, it's through August of 23, we had 1,955 calls. Through August of 24, we have an increase, 1968. And our percentage, is that percentage accurately reflecting that, or is that showing a reduction in one? So I think, we might have some computation issue on that percentage that might want to check for next month's report.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah.
It's still close, but I think we're different.
We're still at a 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no questions, we'll move on to staffing updates. Mr. Hiscott.
Thank you, Mr. Copley, members of the committee. I'll work through these. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. In the patrol officer process update, we have one candidate who is very near completion of the pre-hiring testing portion of that. I expect we'll hear something shortly in regards to that final step in the process and be making a conditional offer of employment, a firm offer of employment. That particular candidate will need the police academy, so we'll have to figure out a time and mechanism to get that individual to a police academy that we can. Moving to the firefighter paramedic update, we are in the process of expiring the current list. Chief and I were just talking this afternoon. We are asking Director McCullough to expire that list and then test for a new civil service, or excuse me, advertise for a new civil service test. The reason you might ask is with Lane Smith's hire, we're at 16 of 16 authorized strength level. However, we anticipate a retirement early in 25, so might as well get started with the compilation of an eligibility list and a testing process, the interviewing process, and those steps now. So that's the method to our madness in that particular area.
Good planning.
Yep. Chief already spoke to the next item, part-time fire and EMS, and his update. We did have 2 part-timers accept firm offers of employment, and I believe they started back on August 26th, perhaps, thereabout.
Yes.
We do have 1 candidate who is still finishing up some pre-hiring testing. I don't know if you have any update on that particular
The
candidate.
agility test is this Sunday.
So we should have some information on that part-time candidate coming to us shortly there. And then in the dispatch hiring environment, we have 2 candidates who are currently in the background stages. I believe the Detective Bureau is finishing up those backgrounds pretty soon here. In talking with Dispatch Supervisor Cynthia, she believes she should be receiving that in a week or so. Once her review happens, she then forwards it to me. So we're hopeful to move forward on those candidates after those reviews. I've received no information on either one of those candidates through the background that would make me suspect that we've run into any issues at this point. So looking forward to hopefully moving those folks to the next step in the pre-hiring process.
How many dispatchers are we down?
We are at 9 of 11 authorized
11,
strength,
so-
with 11 being a working supervisor, so remember that. So we could use to hire 2 at this point.
Okay.
And that is the completion of my staffing report.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on then to other. We'll start with Mr. Hiscock.
I want to thank Mr. Copley and those who were able to attend our 9/11 Memorial Dedication Ceremony. I also want to thank Chief Linder, Assistant Chief Potter. They did a really nice job, not just today during the dedication ceremony, but really in making that project come to fruition. It's located out back behind the new fire station, but dedicating the land, thinking about that as we were going through the construction process and then putting it all together. It is a small and solemn space, but I think it's great for our community, and that was nice to see folks come out today and do that. And the whole idea is it's not just here for 9/11. It's hopeful that folks can, whether they're in that area or hopefully enjoying the playground when it's completed, they can take a moment, come over and look at it. We installed some plaques in different locations, which tells a little bit about the events of that day, talks a little bit about the theme of our memorial, if you will, the memorial walkway. And it's just a good space, so I appreciate everyone. And I realize that today was on short notice and today's ceremony was in the middle of a normal work day, so I understood that there were folks that were unable to be there, but just wanted to say thank you to everyone.
It was a
who
very
took part
nice
of that.
ceremony.
So,
You guys did a great job, and it looks beautiful, the memorial does. So, good job. Okay.
I have
Chief Linder?
nothing.
Chief Chafin?
Mr. Copley, you'd asked about a bike program. I don't know if you wanted to wait to your time or if you wanted me to cover it
Go
during
ahead.
mine. So I don't know if you wanted to provide an intro as to what prompted the discussion or the
I can,
idea.
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, back about 2 months ago, there was a News Channel 8 program on about independence, doing bike patrol, out in the neighborhoods, and talking to kids, talking to residents and stuff like that there, and it was getting great reviews. So I sent an email to Director Hiscock and Chief Chafin, asking if this is something that we could do here in Wadsworth maybe. I understand staffing plays an important role here, because we got to answer real calls and stuff. So I asked Chief Chafin if he could give us some type of update or something on it.
Sure. So I think you're spot on with the staffing perspective. The bike patrol is an essential element for us for our larger events downtown, and they play a key role, whether it's a Blue Tip Parade, upcoming Scare in the Square, July 4th. They really help out. We do have the capability of getting into the neighborhoods. We've got bike racks for the patrol cars, and with the e-bikes now, I think that helps as well too, because the e-bike by its very nature is faster and requiring less effort to get from point A to point B. We've generally sort of left that open-ended to those officers that are in that program to say, hey, if you have the staffing that day and you want to go to your sergeant and you want to get out in the neighborhoods, feel free to do that. It's certainly something that we could go back and remind those officers. We're probably getting to the wrong time of year as it's about to get colder here. But I think as the staffing continues to improve, and once that is in, and more importantly, once those new officers are sort of up to speed and out of FTO, which will take some time as well too, that'll give us the better shift strength to then really maybe more, whether it's formalizing that or whether it's encouraging that more on a regular basis. It's also really helpful in the summertime for those officers to get out Because every summer we always say we always have break-ins in cars or kids are out and about. The bike patrol really provides an element of stealth and surprise when you're looking for those folks, or as they're out looking for the black and white patrol car, they're not looking for somebody on a bike that doesn't make any noise and anything else. The other aspect too, I think, would be is at some point getting additional officers certified in that program. As we have a younger officer corps, I think that might be something that others are interested in. Two of our current bike patrol officers, they scored high enough on their tests and completed in the program to certify as instructors, but I think what we were waiting for is they had to either have a certain total time amount of service or they had to have a certain time as a bike patrol officer before they could become instructors, because that is something that's also a challenge because those courses are not local. So when we look to do those, it's usually lodging components, per diem components, and it becomes what maybe an average expense class becomes a more expensive class. So if we could get some of our own guys internally certified as instructors, but again, so there's different steps to each of those processes, but I did appreciate it. It sounded like that gentleman was maybe more of a full-time assignment to that, and I don't know if we're quite to
during the
there.
summer
Yeah,
months.
yeah. But I think, as I mentioned, encouraging that type of patrol, I think would be good for us, and I also think it'd be good for the community and our interaction with them.
Yeah, interaction, I mean, that's great, and everything, I think.
Yeah.
So your check.
Yeah, just two quick things. Any issues with the start of school? Everything's smooth? School zones being obeyed? And
Yeah, every time we try to make more of a proactive, whether presence or targeted enforcement or just having officers at the school. We do have a new SRO, so we had Officer Dan Schunk, who had been an SRO for a number of years and was our SRO of the year for the entire state of Ohio. He had a desire to come back to patrol, so Officer Nate Ball has filled that role, and he'll be in the elementary schools and CIS. But I will say, in speaking to his supervisor and just speaking to him in general, really happy with his transition so far. Obviously, Officer Schunk had really had an opportunity to build up personal relationships with people. They were a lot of times contacting him after hours with information and going direct to him. And when I was asking Officer Ball about it the other day, he was already getting those phone calls in the middle of that. So I think that's a good sign. Officer Ball is a Wadsworth graduate, so he's familiar with the community, loves the schools, and I think we're excited about that. But yeah, no real issues yet to speak of, but a major change in that aspect that we want to inform the committee about.
okay, thank you. And then the other one is just a quick overview of how you felt the wins over Wadsworth went with the traffic flow and this year compared to years past.
So I will say, and anyone else is more than welcome to jump in if they have a difference of opinion, but from the police perspective, this is probably the best the event has ever gone. Last year, we had shut down traffic at the traffic circle maybe 3-4 times before the traffic had started to die down. With their changes this year and with the way that they manage that flow, we didn't have to shut it down once. So much more efficient. Grateful to the event planners for taking what we had given them and really kind of putting that to paper and coming up with a good plan. They still had a very large turnout, probably somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 people. But from the police perspective, and again, anyone feel free to weigh in, I think this is the best one that I've seen since I've been here.
No, I would echo the same. Yeah, compared to last year and previous years, this year, this is by far the best. They do a lot of work planning, trying to think of everything, whether it's parking, traffic, and they do work with us, for the conditions that we have down there, with one entrance in and out. They do a really good job. And this year, I think, knock on wood, everything went smooth for us. It's good. The team effort of both police and fire and EMS all working together, it worked out well.
Good.
I would just echo those comments, and I think it's important for the committee to understand, we actively take part in after-action reviews of events, and that event had its challenges and has its challenges, both from a geographic standpoint as well as just the sheer volume of participants and those who attend the particular event. But we do work hard. I want to stress the planning. We work hard to have our own internal reviews and then put those reviews to test with the event organizers. That particular team seems to be very open and welcomes some of the feedback we do, and they've really done a nice job of incorporating some of the suggestions and concerns, quite honestly, of the safety forces into their pre-planning, and so they've done a nice job. And every year it seems to improve. We'll find something else and go from there. But it's been a good cooperative effort between the private event organizers and the public safety forces planning team. So good job there. And I will want to make sure I mention this, that Lieutenant Dorland in the police department really puts together our EAP, or emergency action plans for events, all the way down to staffing assignments and mapping ideas. And he's truly gifted in that planning realm, I would say. And again, a wonderful job in some of the work he does. I take the materials he prepares and put them into a book for myself. I carry that book in my city vehicle, and I carry that book to our command post center. I know others have books that they've put together based upon different things. So it's really a testament to the work that we do, pre-planning for events, and then learning from our experiences and moving forward and trying to improve the plan next time. So it's a good event.
Good job.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Mutual?
No, I'm good.
Mr.
Thank you.
Rossford?
Yeah, I've brought this up before, and I think I am seeing more and more and more of the e-bikes, the e-scooters, the uni-wheels, high rate of speed on sidewalks. Do we have an ordinance about those and what speeds, or what can we do to enforce some of this? Because somebody's going to get knocked down and hurt. It's getting worse, it seems, by the day, you know. And I've taken a lot more flack or calls from people saying, what can we do about this? I don't know what other cities do.
I don't.
Some of these bikes are flying.
You know, there's generally an ordinance that speaks to bicycles on sidewalks and really pushes bicycles into the roadways for operation. But I don't know that there's anything that speaks to e-bikes. And Chief Chafin, I'm looking at you, you know, from a standpoint of the growth in e-vehicles in general, scooters, personal vehicles, e-bikes, those kind of things. I don't know that there's anything off the top of my head that comes to mind that would be an enforcement arm in our current ordinance.
I'm thinking about the different classifications of e-bikes as
Yeah.
well too, and I know there's some differences in restrictions depending on which category of e-bike it falls into.
We
I
will
would-
need some time to look at that from an enforcement angle first and foremost, and then obviously consult with law to see what's out there, and ultimately the prosecutors see how they feel about different areas there.
And I'm just saying, you know, we've seen a huge increase. At least this summer there were a lot more, and I keep seeing more and more, and I hear more people talking about it, and it does become a safety concern of the speed on residential sidewalks and things, and that
I saw,
concerns me.
in regards to Mr. Yurcha, I saw more and more students sort of commuting
Yes.
to school campuses on e-bikes or on e-scooters actually than I've ever seen. This year I saw quite a few of it. Now, obviously, I think that will die down as the weather turns,
yeah.
but it was interesting to observe that in a
sleep
school.
They
in.
are popular. There's several in my neighborhood.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just something I want to put on our radar to look at for future, so that we don't have a major incident, somebody getting knocked down or not obeying what they should be on those.
Is that all you have, Mr. Rossford?
That's all I have.
The only thing I have tonight is, how about an update on our side-by-side purchase from last year? I mean, we haven't talked, I've seen them downtown and stuff like that, but are they useful? Are we using them?
I'm going to try to control my smile as I respond, but yes, they're very useful, and I love having it. It has been a great addition, as we were talking about with the bikes, to be able to utilize that at the parade, you know, was great. You know, we this year had, you know, packed it up with emergency stop the bleed kits and things like that, and could use that as a rapid response if we had a mass incident, something like that. But it just takes the job of setting up those barricades and taking those barricades down, and makes that happen in seconds compared to, jogging from one end to the other or having the bike guys drive around. We've utilized it out in the brickyard for trespassing and things like that. We are on our second cycle of coming back through to train the officers again a second time. Obviously, some of them are more familiar with that kind of vehicle than others, and so because it's a different vehicle, we want to make sure that we hit that. And Officer Innocente has done a really nice job with that as our instructor. Yeah, I think it has been very useful. I've certainly appreciated it. It's also been a good conversation starter in the community. I mean, kids want to come up and check it out. Parents want to come up and check it out. So it's been great on that end as well. But I think we've certainly seen a use for it on the police side, and we appreciate it very much.
I think for us, it also provides that comfort knowing that you had the ability to get places that you normally couldn't get now that we have that. We have used ours on one emergency call out in the woods. We had to get somebody out with ours. So it's been on one emergency call, and then, of course, along with all the PR events that we take it as well. But yeah, the one time I had to go out in the woods, it worked great. No problems with it.
Yeah, I just hadn't heard anything,
Yeah.
anything. I just thought,
Yeah, and the
Nice
one
company.
I was going to say, from the initial training, they really put it through its paces back in the brickyard, and there was some other UTVs from other area departments, and without naming names, I would say that ours, the one that we purchased, fared far and away better in those really nasty conditions, whether it was mud, water, angles of approach. So it's been, in that sense, a really good purchase too. I think we made the right decision there. So
We have not raced ours yet, though. See who's, we have not done that, so.
okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We are adjourned.
Hey, Patrick.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.